Until you've lost your reputation, you never realize what a burden it was or what freedom really is. Yes, I want money more than anything else in the world.
Then you've made the only choice. But there's a penalty attached, as there is to most things you want. It's loneliness.
Money is the most important thing in the world. It represents health, strength, honor, generosity, and beauty. Life's under no obligation to give us what we expect. We take what we get and are thankful it's no worse than it is. Life was not easy, nor was it happy, but she did not expect life to be easy, and if it was not happy, that was a woman's lot. It was a man's world, and she accepted it as such. The liar was the hottest to defend his veracity, the coward his courage, the ill-bred his gentlemanliness, and the cad his honor. It doesn't matter who you marry, as long as he thinks like you and is a gentleman, a southerner and prideful. For a woman, love comes after marriage. Now you are beginning to think for yourself instead of letting others think for you. That's the beginning of wisdom.
You're so brutal to those who love you. You take their love and hold it over their heads like a whip.
Perhaps I want the old days back again, and they'll never come back, and I am haunted by the memory of them and of the world falling about my ears. Her burdens were her own, and burdens were for shoulders strong enough to bear them. I can't think about that right now. If I do, I'll go crazy. I'll think about that tomorrow. Why should I fight to uphold the system that cast me out? I shall take pleasure in seeing it smashed. And apologies, once postponed, become harder and harder to make, and finally impossible. He knew that she took life as it came, opposed her tough-fibered mind to whatever obstacles there might be, fought on with a determination that would not recognize defeat, and kept on fighting even when she saw defeat was inevitable. I feel sorry for her, but I don't like people I've got to feel sorry for. There were 2 times for making big money, one in the upbuilding of a country and the other in its destruction. Slow money on the upbuilding, fast money in the crack-up. She could not ignore life. She had to live it, and it was too brutal, too hostile, for her even to try to gloss over its harshness with a smile. Like most girls, her imagination carried her just as far as the altar and no further. It's a very bad thing for a woman to face the worst that can happen to her, because after she's faced the worst, she can't ever really fear anything again. Scarlett, always save something to fear, even as you save something to love. A startling thought this, that a woman could handle business matters as well or better than a man, a revolutionary thought to Scarlett, who had been reared in the tradition that men were omniscient and women none too bright. God intended women to be timid, frightened creatures, and there's something unnatural about a woman who isn't afraid. And if we folks have a motto, it's this: don't holler, smile and bide your time. We've survived a passel of things that way, smiling and biding our time, and we've gotten to be experts at surviving. As God is my witness, as God is my witness, they're not going to lick me. I'm going to live through this, and when it's all over, I'll never be hungry again. When trouble comes, we bow to the inevitable without any mouthing, and we work, and we smile, and we bide our time. And we play along with lesser folks, and we take what we can get from them. And when we're strong enough, we kick the folks whose necks we've climbed over. That, my child, is the secret of the survival. Make up your mind to this. If you are different, you are isolated, not only from people of your own age but from those of your parents' generation and from your children's generation too. They'll never understand you, and they'll be shocked no matter what you do. But your grandparents would probably be proud of you and say, "There's a chip off the old block," and your grandchildren will sigh enviously and say, "What an old rip grandma must have been," and they'll try to be like you. What is broken, and I'd rather remember it as it was at its best than mend it and see the broken places as long as I lived. Never pass up new experiences, they enrich the mind. Most of the misery of the world has been caused by wars. And when the wars were over, no one ever knew what they were all about. How closely women clutch the very chains that bind them. That is the one unforgivable sin in any society. Be different and be damned. There's just as much money to be made in the wreck of a civilization as in the upbuilding of one. In the end, what will happen will be what has happened whenever a civilization breaks up. The people who have brains and courage come through, and the ones who haven't are winnowed out. I was right when I said I'd never look back. It hurts too much, it drags at your heart till you can't ever do anything else except look back. They knew that love snatched in the face of danger and death was doubly sweet for the strange excitement that went with it. It's a poor person and a poor nation that sit down and cry because life isn't precisely what they expected it to be. War and marriage and childbirth had passed over her without touching any deep chord within her, and she was unchanged. Fighting is like champagne. It goes to the heads of cowards as quickly as to heroes. Any fool can be brave on a battlefield when it's be brave or else be killed. She knew what she wanted and went after it by the shortest route. I've always had a weakness for lost causes once they're really lost. Death, taxes, and childbirth. There's never any convenient time for any of them. We bow to the inevitable. We're not wheat, we're buckwheat. When a storm comes along, it flattens ripe wheat because it's dry and can't bend with the wind. But ripe buckwheat's got sap in it, and it bends. And when the wind has passed, it springs up almost as straight and strong as before. If the people who started wars didn't make them sacred, who would be foolish enough to fight? But no matter what rallying cries the orators give to the idiots who fight, no matter what noble purposes they assign to wars, there is never but one reason for a war. And that is money. All wars are in reality money squabbles. Hardships make or break people. You're like the thief who isn't the least bit sorry he stole, but is terribly, terribly sorry he's going to jail. The world can forgive practically anything except people who mind their own business. It taught me what people really are, but it didn't teach me how to live with them. And I'm afraid I'll never learn. Now I know that in order to support my wife and child, I will have to make my way among a world of people with whom I have nothing in common. Someday I'm going to do and say everything I want to do and say, and if people don't like it, I don't care. He saw that she understood entirely too well, and he felt the usual masculine indignation at the duplicity of women. Added to it was the usual masculine disillusionment in discovering that a woman has a brain.
God help the man who ever really loves you.
There'll always be wars because men love wars. Women don't, but men do.
Anyone as selfish and determined as you are is never helpless.
After all, tomorrow is another day. Melanie spoke kind and flattering words from a desire to make people happy, if only temporarily, and Scarlett never did it except to further her own aims. With enough courage, you can do without a reputation.